Welcome back to Nottingham for the World Under-24 Ultimate Championships. One of two free streams for you today, and we are in with our second round of women's quarterfinal action with the undefeated and scarcely tested Japan up against Australia. It's Benjamin Rees alongside Liam Grant. This is going to be a fascinating game because Japan have kind of steamrolled all in front of them so far, and now we get a chance to contextualise that a little bit as we see how they face up against the fourth place side in the other pool, the Australians.
Yeah, this is probably their first real test, the Japanese side. No one's put more than 4 up against them. Australia have put up some good results as well. They had that 59 loss to USA, but that's a respectable scoreline. Also had that 15-13 game against Germany, who just punched their ticket for their semi-final. We've one semi-final locked in, USA versus Germany. Japan definitely the favourites going into this, but Australia will be very familiar with playing with Japanese teams.
For Australia, if they are to win this game and pull the upset, it might come off the arm of Lucy Della, who leads the team in assists, 13 assists and a couple of goals as well. Especially when they get into tricky situations, look for her to try and stretch the field with her arsenal of throws. She has everything in the locker for the Stingrays.
Yeah, if their dancing is as good as their ultimate, they're in a chance of this, getting pumped up here on the sideline.
You mentioned, of course, that it is USA-Germany in one semi-final. That will be a rematch of a pool play game with Japan pulling off, Germany pulling off the quote-unquote upset against Italy, with Germany finishing third in their pool and Italy second in theirs. But that was a commanding victory for both sides in the top half of the bracket. We've picked out someone from Watch Japan as well, and it's someone who contributes both as a thrower and as a receiver, Asuka Katagiri.
And she's only been playing for 3 years, which is astonishing how good of a thrower she is. And I don't know what's in the water in Japan, but every Japanese player you see come to these World Championships in all divisions across all rosters, just incredible throwers. Really, really, they emphasize that. I think it's part of their culture in Japan, in the ultimate scene, is to have that accurate throwing. We see some Australians there on the sideline. We look at the pools here, 2 pools of 7, so quite a lot of pool play games for teams in the women's division. As you said, Japan just steamrolling through Pool B.
What's their goal difference so far, Liam?
A lot. I think it's plus a lot, Benji.
Plus 74. So they're winning
so far.
Yeah, through 6 games. That's over 12 points a game on average they're winning by. The closest anyone come was Colombia in the last second last, I think, game of pool play, and that was 15-4. So ominous for Australia. The 3-3, it's kind of telling, slap bang in the middle of that pool, because they lost to all the teams above them and beat all the teams below them.
Conditions improving as the week has gone on here in Nottingham, and this is very much an upwind downwind field, but not too bad of a wind today. Definitely a thrower's wind. Ideal temperatures, not too hot, not too cold. It is really lovely ultimate playing conditions.
Yeah, it says, that 17-mile-an-hour winds with strong gusts as well. But at the moment, it feels relatively calm. And with the natural kind of surround provided by the trees you've got over behind the left-hand end zone, and, of course, the trees lining University Boulevard beyond the pitch as well, it does create a little bit more shelter. Here are the starting lines for both sides. And both of our players to watch are going to start the game out there on the field. Asuka Katagiri and Mei Lee and Lucy Della, although contributions I'm sure to come from up and down the roster.
It will be Japan on defense, and they're playing into the wind. As I said again, the wind's in miles. I'm going to make a petition to WFDF and Ultra-World to bring out kilometers, keep the metric system going. I'll accept knots maybe, but I'd like to see the kilometers here.
So Della, this time they start her downfield and isolate her underneath. Absolutely rips the forehand, and it is bang on the money, delivering early. The top assister to the top goal scorer for the Australians, Della to Pigeon, to make it 1-0. And that pool play worked like a dream, Liam.
Pitch perfect pull play from the Australians. As you said, their 2 top scorers combining. We see that slash cut from Della just coming straight across, giving her lots of space to work with, and a scorching forehand to the end zone. Beautiful body control. She sends that. And a really good type of throw. A lot of float on it, coming in make sure it's very, very catchable. You look at these Australians that have the height mismatch up in most matchups there, that if they're throwing the hook, put it nice and floaty. The one thing you do not want to do is throw it out the back, throw it over, throw your receiver. I think they're going to win the matchups if they have to, especially when they've already established position like that.
And the trajectory on that throw was so precise, just that little bit of blade to take it out into space and then roll it back into the receiver's path.
We see Holly Reeve there, one of the coaches of this Australian team. I'm not sure how old Holly is. I'd say she must only be a year or two off being eligible to play for this. Played with the Asian Oceanic All-Stars.
Of course, you were out there commentating that.
Yeah, a player I know very well, and she has quite the arm on her, as many of these Australian players.
And I'm sure she's given that confidence to her young charges. So first, offensive possession here for Japan. A little bit floaty there, but not a problem for Hinago. Faking down the line. Now coming into the backfield here is Kanami Uchida. Katagiri, who's playing both ways, wanted to sit that one out, but there's a little bit of float on it, and the defender was able to pop up and tip it away.
A brilliant poach in the lane. That is fantastic from Australia. They are the underdogs going into this game, but that's the kind of plays that they're going to need to make to win it. Helping each other out, getting some other big bodies around the end zone and making that block.
Kara on the far sideline, now beginning to square up a little bit. Handler clears up line. That was a really jammy throw, and Chua wasn't able to secure it. Second chance for Japan. High release down the line, going to ground to secure it, but it is secured. Tsunezumi now going with the blade, finds a space where seemingly there was none, and Katagiri gets Japan's first goal, one apiece.
A hold for Japan as well, but not as clean as the Australian ones. Opportunity goes a begging for Australia. You wonder how many opportunities they're going to get like that in this game. Had a chance to break early, but an unfortunate turnover for them. And that's going to be one of the comparisons, I think, to these two sides. Is top to bottom, I'm just presuming, and I know that all these Japanese players are incredibly skilled throwers. Probably going to see less of that in terms of Australians, but what they are going to have loads of is height and athleticism. That's the kind of contrast between these two teams. It's a battle of throwing prowess and a battle of raw athleticism and talent.
Well, there's a phrase they use in combat sports. Styles make fights, and we're not talking about our retired commentary colleague, Tom. It's the idea that those different matchups, the different play styles, the way the game is built and structured, can be a key element in how it all plays out. And one of the great things about these world events is seeing the various playing histories and philosophies put out there on the field.
That is a great pull from the Japanese side. Ohio gozaimasu to all the Japanese fans watching at home.
A little floater towards the far side. Rickard's Tang catches with the horizontal setup to create the pull play from the first point. Going vertical this time. It looks like there's a pick in the centre. Don't think it affected that throw to Pigeon necessarily.
Yeah, it's slightly different pull play this time with the vertical stack. A bit chaotic and leading to a pick. I'd like to see them setting up that deep shot straight away, to be honest.
It will be telling how early and often that is the game plan for the Australians. Chong's not shy of unleashing it herself and coming over the top, and skying there is Shelby Thompson. Well, it looks like the Australian deep game is going to be a key part of the game plan, Liam.
Shelby Thompson grabbing one off the top shelf there. I don't think there was even a cut or even separation, just a trust throw. And you can see that's something the Japanese are going to have to try and take away. Thompson had that one all day.
I mean, it won't surprise Japan that they're generally a lot shorter than their opposition out there. It's maybe a bit less pronounced in women's division than it might be in the other two, but it is something that generally they are quite cognizant of as an ultimate culture. A lot of their defensive strategies are often predicated around trying to shut down the deep game. It was a good put from Chong, though, because while there wasn't a huge amount of separation, again, that roll curving arc on it took it over the defender towards the break side, and Thompson was able to come over the top.
Yeah, I remember commentating on the 2019 Asian Oceanic Ultimate Championships finals. It was the senior teams, Japan versus Australia, but every time Australia hooked inbounds, they caught it. They won every single matchup in the air. The problem was the Japanese are putting a lot of pressure on them and forcing them to throw out of bounds. But I think that's the case for Australia. If you are throwing the end zone, make sure it's catchable. Put float. If they sky a few players, that's fine, but don't leave it tail out the back. And they've done that really well so far.
Hinago. Zipping the inside flick through, maybe a little bit too much mustard. Uchida couldn't catch it. So the break chance, Madoir puts a lot of air underneath that one, and the Japanese defender read it well. Foul call. Asuka Morioka was the player who got the tip. How did you see it, Liam?
It's definitely collision. I'd love to hear what the players are saying, but
jump, touch, and attack.
Okay.
No foul.
Okay. Do you have a perspective?
From my perspective, you were converging on the disc from two ways,
jumping.
and the disc was knocked away before the contact.
Okay, retracted. Yeah. Cool.
I think that's the right resolution there. I think the Japanese player did well to get kind of positioned first, albeit the Australian did feel contact. I don't think it was initiated by anyone in particular, and that's a good spirited play there.
Yeah, the game advisor on the far side is Philip Huber, and we've got Uni Jong on this near side as well. I must admit, I think I saw it the same way he did. That one had a little bit of a pop-up, but Shimizu catches and goes towards the far side. Australians trying to force Japan to work it underneath. Pass off that switch there. Now they take advantage. Shimizu zipping it towards the end zone. Two receivers there at the back and just too far.
Another break opportunity for Australia. This is their third time now. They've had the disc to get a break. Can this D-line convert?
They are really forcing this normally immaculate Japanese O-line, and there's some pressure, and this was one of the questions we had going in, that maybe they'd had, you know, the easier side of things on the pools, maybe a step up in competition. How do they adapt? Madoir underneath, pumps the flick, lovely up line cut and the offhand backhand in front. Panya Preston lost their footing but recovered and laid out, and now Preston again shooting deep. Undersold her option there, was looking for Thompson, and now there's the deep shot from Japan, striking while the iron is hot. They've got two players, got to take the open end zone shot. Surely, indeed, they do. Kanami Uchida finds the target for the score, the number 12, Ikumi Kishida.
I do love the Japanese celebrations, and they slowly sail that one into port without a few little bumps on the way there. Australia are generating turns, they'll be very happy with that, but struggling to convert. You can see there's going to be a contrast in style of hucking from these two teams. Japan have to put edge on their hucks a lot of time or keep them low. They can't afford to have them too floaty. You know, there's going to be possibly a taller Australian chasing them down, so there has to be edge, and when you add that edge, it has to be a little more accurate, and it wasn't there in one of those hooks.
Yeah, you kind of got less of the air underneath it, hanging options. It's the flatter, well, not quite flatter necessarily, but like lower, zippier options, because as you mentioned, a lot of the game plan is trying to not let those players get involved, and it's why often you'll see a lot of the hucks not quite go into the end zone, because it's not necessarily about throwing it for the score, it's more about just throwing them open into space.
And it's just getting it there quickly, I think, is the objective of the throw, whether you're zipping it, blading it. And then you can probably afford to contrast that with the Australians. We can loft it a bit, use their vertical space to our advantage. We saw the first call kind of in the game, and it's nice to set a standard for the Spirit. I think it was very well talked about, and that will hopefully set the tone for the rest of the game.
So again, they tried to get the pool play set up to Della. This time Japan does a good job of marking it out, so the reset goes instead to Julie Chong. Now they find Della. Pigeon's taking off deep, and Della this time motions her underneath. Swing to O'Connor, continuing to Chong. Transition out of the horizontal setup in which they started to go vertical. So far, Japan doing a very good job of keeping them just going back and forth in the handler set. Might be some space for the put off the upline for Connor, but she goes for the break over the top, picks the target out well, downfield, Hannah Shears. Here's Della. You can see gives the hands, looking for Pigeon, and that backhand blade picked the match up well from Della. 3-2. The Aussies yet to turn it over on offense.
Della with the buttery biscuit there, floating it down into space, and again, just trusting the receivers, often not a huge amount of separation, but putting it out into space and letting them go get it. And another clean hold from the Australia O-line. Perfect. You see Japan attempting to slow them down a bit there, and they did. They slowed them down, but they haven't yet stopped them at all. See, almost chatting on the field. Where do you want me to put it? I'll send it up for you. No problem, Pigeon. Go get it.
I mean, the communication there is very clear. On the one hand, it might be a little bit obvious what the plan is, but when it's executed well, it's still tough to stop.
You wonder at any stage in this game, are Australia going to cross some players over to the D-line? The D-line's doing very well so far in terms of generating breaks, but lacking a bit of offensive prowess at times to convert them.
I mean, you called for it. Della and Pigeon are out there at the moment. So, in fact, is Hannah Shears. Rather than have clear offense and defense lines, they've got kind of 7 different sets of 7 or 8 players, and they'll rotate them through depending on what they feel it calls for. Do they want a line that's really good at throwing upwind? Do they want a line that's adept at playing with or is against a zone? Do they want a side that's maybe got that big play ability? And they'll change them through depending on what the game situation calls. I imagine there's a line out there that is always tasked with going and say, we want a break now, go and find it for us. Sugumi Kita. Asuka Katagiri again trying to shoot down the sideline. Just a little bit of a tiptoe there. Pirouettes after the catch. Kaho Oki makes it 3 apiece. The first clean hold of the game for Japan. A good sign for their offense going forward.
Finding a little more rhythm now, just squeaking it in there to Oki. Wasn't a lot of room to work with, but Japanese size known for working in tight spaces. A nice inside shot to open around. And continues with the backhand break that time, and great awareness. And you love to see players smiling on the field, celebrating their goals. And great footwork and a great celebration for that one. Some Japanese fans here.
They look a little bit cold. I think this is perfectly pleasant for Nottingham.
Yeah, it gets hot in Japan as well.
It gets very hot and very humid as well.
Yeah, we've had some standout players come through this U24 women's team. Remember the likes of Kaeda, Yoshida, Shiori, Ogawa.
I mean, they've been very blunt about what their objective is this week. It's to come home with that gold medal like they did in 2015. Their head coach this year was involved in the coaching setup back then, so they know what it takes to go out there and win it all as it's tipped, but Della recovers. And here's something a little bit different defensively from Japan.
I'm surprised it's taken this long to see the zone. I thought they might go with the zone straight away. They do have 1 or 2 taller players. Just having someone back to protect the end zone at all times with a bit of height is maybe favourite the Japanese.
Della will look to distribute. Short to O'Connor. There is the hammer open towards the far side, and she's going to go for it as well. Gutsy throw, but it comes off the hands of Rickards Tang. First turnover for the Australian O-line. We'll see how ruthless and punishing the Japanese D can be after the turn. Mamiya. Looking for the underneath cut. Gets it on to Takada. Now Nakai. Japan, as they all want to do, just keeping things short at the moment, but they need to be aware because that deep shot could come. It was just a little bit behind Nishide though. And Australia picking up quickly, trying to make sure the Japanese defense can't get set. And it was a very wise move because Mei Lee Rickards Tang makes amends for the earlier drop by punching in the score. On serve in this game, 4-3.
Coverage completely blown there, and fantastic work by Rickards Tang. realizing there's a quick turnover, just takes off for the end zone. The Japanese zone defense does not have time to set up. I think Japan will be happy with how that zone looked, though. Definitely tempting them into that big crossfield hammer that ended up in a turnover. That's what they want them to do. But they waste no time on the second attempt. You can see here, that's a difficult hammer to throw and catch. And, you know, I think the majority of the time Australia probably will catch that, but that's the kind of higher risk throws Japan want to tempt them into, because when they have these hooking options, they're just unstoppable.
Yeah, we pinpointed Della as one of the key throwers before the game, but Chong's chipped in with 2 assists as well, both of them going with the deep shot. It's clear that this is something that they've talked about as a focus for this game. And they've executed it brilliantly.
Yeah, I think no other team has put more than 4 points up against Japan.
Correct.
They've done that incredibly well, not been broken yet. The Australians, both teams just trading it out so far, kind of feeling each other out, adjusting their tactics as the game goes on.
The underneath cut well marked out with some stifling dump coverage there from Madouar. Japan going for the hanging deep option. There's a fair few players in the area, and coming through once more is Hikari Hashizumi. So often when they stretch it, she's the option, and once again she shows why. 4 each.
Take a bow, Hashizumi. Incredible read and grab. Pressure coming from all sides there. As you see, she's working the crowd just like she worked the deep space there. That a bit of a spicy throw. A couple of Australians are needed. Kept her eyes on the prize and climbs up high to take that one down.
Hashizumi is a standout deep threat, and she's maybe a bit taller than some of the roster, but she's showing that, again, if you get a good read nice and early, and especially if you've got that speed along the ground, size is no obstacle.
She ended up in a bit of a Vegemite sandwich there, but able to rise to the top. Do you like Vegemite?
More of a Marmite man myself, to be honest. What about you?
I'm more of like a potato sandwich, a tato sandwich. Is that can I say that?
A crisp sandwich?
Crisp sandwich. Can't beat a crisp
Oh
sandwich.
man, now that is a true British delicacy. Even though I know you're Irish, don't worry, I'm not impinging on that.
Yeah, 2 neutrals here in this game. Just excited for a fantastic matchup.
I mean, I'm neutral in every game, but so far this contest has absolutely delivered. They've got the open swing available, taking it to O'Connor, already beyond midfield. Oh, slips through the trap door there. And going with the blade atop again, trying to hit it out to Pigeon, and Pigeon sticks the catch once more into the layout gloved hands. 5-4 to Australia. 3rd goal of the game for Angela Pigeon. She is such a weapon for them.
What a contest we're having. This is such a great game for the neutral. Pure magic again from Australia. Lots of contested hooks, but the offensive players showing their skills here. Again, Australia like to gesticulate where they want it. Put it up there, I'll go get it. Trusting their receivers. Angela Pigeon, pure magic.
You can see there the layout gloves providing the best grip for her game, certainly, and doesn't certainly hurt in slightly windy conditions such as these. Let's have a look at the 3 goals so far for Angela Pigeon, and you might be able to guess what the game plan is from how they are. The first deep put on the opening point from Della. They set up the isolation brilliantly. This time, you're seeing that there again. Della on that blade deep. She's just so good at finding the timing of those cuts to get in behind, and she knows the handlers are going to throw it, as the Japanese have here. It's expansive in the extreme from Uchida, and that's tragic for Sagabo because it was magnificent form, but it just bounced out.
This is such a hook-happy game, and I'm absolutely loving it, Benji. It looked like she had that one and got ground stripped eventually.
Chua. Key piece of the D-line, or miscommunication that are thrown right back into the lap of Asuka Morioka. Shimizu. I was going to say rather optimistically wearing sunglasses, but that's rich from me. And then the blade around was overthrown for Shimizu.
And Della is on the field now for this Australian D-line. We know she has the throwing power.
Maybe a bit of the mockers he put on her there, because that one doesn't go to hand. And now another red zone opportunity for Japan, and it is punched in 2 passes. Morioka this time finds the target of Kawayanagi, and it's 5 apiece. Both sides just trading holds in this game.
You see, Australia have had multiple break opportunities now, and they actually haven't thrown it to the end zone.
Yeah, I think 5 turnovers they've generated on the Japanese offense, and against teams of this quality, you're going to need to make those stick, because eventually you feel like they'll tighten things up, and when they get their chances, they will be a bit more ruthless with it.
Yeah, I'd just like to see him lash it to the end zone like they've done on offenses, being very quick to huck it. I like to see it is going upwind, and again, we've only had downwind scores so far this game. If you have the likes of Diller on the pitch, and then you just pick it up and lash it, see if you can have. You got to throw the end zone to score, and the D-line hasn't done that.
That's the pelt way, isn't it, Liam? Just
it is.
Grip it and rip it.
You know what? It's not the worst D-line offense. There's a lot of teams do it, and there's a lot to be said for it. Usually D-line's very athletic, but working up slowly up the field just don't have the throwers for it. But if you put one up there, put up a 50-50, I think it's probably more than a 50-50 if it's a hanging disc with these Australians. That being said, Japan have done very well to come down with their hooks.
The clouds close in as Japan come out with a zone. They've got someone on the force. 2 in behind them, and they're diamonding downfield. Popping the blade up over the top towards the far side. Della. A couple of players already deep, but instead finding that soft spot through to Chong. This time it's Chong's turn to put the air underneath it. Who can get the read? Oh, superb to slice the way through 2 advancing Japanese defenders. The composure from Rickards Tang to make it 6-5.
Rickards Tang had her reading glasses on for that one. The player hailing from Sydney. Again, there's been a lot of traffic in those end zones and people are coming down with them, but the offensive players showing that they have position, holding it.
I mean, this is I'll say it's well covered, I think, but again, they're happy to take those shots. I think A, they back their defense to get it back, especially in that direction, and B, they've just got that trust in their receivers to get the read and maybe utilize the size advantage. You can see the other Australian contingent watching in the stands, supporting on their compatriots. I must say they're doing them proud out there.
Yeah, we got some more Australian quarterfinals coming up. I believe the Australia Open team will be playing USA. The Australian mixed team, surprisingly, out already, did not make the bracket play. They were silver medalists last time this competition was in the United Kingdom.
They were indeed back in 2015 when it was still under 23s. That one played, we'll say quote unquote, London. It was essentially St Albans, for those of you who know your UK geography. A game that I commentated on. Unfortunately, it was not as close as we had hoped. What a grab that is under asphyxiating pressure. Hinago fights through it. Uchida. Maybe looking a little frustrated that she's not liking what she sees downfield. Shimizu. Low, into space. Surely they'll continue that break side flow. No, the Australians drop off just to muddy things downfield. Squeaking it past the defender. Now Morioka. Looking to find that red zone stand that they've provided on a couple of occasions already, the Aussies. Nice switch passed off downfield, but that throw towards the end zone is going to float. But if you're going to float it to anyone for Japan, float it to Hashizume.
Hashizume, does she have magnets on her hands? I'm not sure. It always seems to, it goes up, you're like, I'm not sure who's going to get this. But then at the last second, she's just in the right position at the right time. Australians a little frustrated there. They feel like they should be getting hands on this disc, but both teams happy to throw spicy cross-field shots to the end zone.
So another goal to the tally of Mitsuke Hashizumi. See there, the Australian staying positive on the sideline. You're also seeing Asuka Itoyo, who was unfortunately a member of that ACL club, but I know that there's a few players, unfortunately, at the tournament who are in that similar recovery state, and I'm reliably informed that they're trying to form a WhatsApp group with everyone who's here who's torn an ACL so they can kind of cheer each other on through recovery. And I love seeing those relationships fostered across international borders.
Yeah, I suppose there's a silver lining to every cloud there if they can work together and try and see how they recover. A lot of debates on the best way to recover an ACL. And we see the Japanese players are sagging the lane, stopping that initiation cut. We saw that slash cut coming from Australia that's worked so well, initiating play, but the Japanese handlers stopping the first pass, and there we get the run-through block.
Yeah, I thought Della had done enough to slice it through, but not on that occasion. Really well defended, fully committed to the layout was Nishide. In the red zone now, Japan, where usually they are so efficient and so ruthless. Looking for the break side movement. We're going to bounce back towards the centre now. Nasu fakes the backhand, rolls it around past Shears. Sunezumi, I think wants maybe something. Oh, that is creative, and it is tipped away by Hannah Shears. Utilising those long arms and just like a goalkeeper, palming it round the post.
Hannah Shears, do not pass go, do not collect £200, denying that one. That would have been a pivotal moment of the game if they scored that break.
And Australia do not want to play near their own end zone, so they jack it to Pigeon. Why not when it keeps working like that? Della finds O'Connor in space, pretty much bang on the attacking break mark. Throw sat out to space there that Rickards Tang receives. Here's Rhea Carpenter. One assist to her name already. Della this time going towards the end zone. Oh, the throw popped up at the crucial moment. And the opportunity for Australia is lost.
Hard player to throw over. Della got big there, climbed the ladder, but not even she could take that down. And some leap she got there.
I mean, she's quite a tall figure anyway.
You see, poaching off the stack here, the Australian player is kind of a J stack from Japan. And Australia poaching off it, taking away a lot of options.
That seemed very physical, the defence there from Della. But all fair and clean, according to the Japanese receiver, and that's what matters.
That was brilliant defensive play from Australia. Seeing that six-person vertical stack, and they just surrounded them and suffocated them.
Oh, putting that one over the top to Pigeon. What a throw there from Rhea Carpenter. Liam, does that qualify as a buttery biscuit?
I think it does. You can chalk that one down. Another buttery biscuit for the Australians. There's some really enjoyable throws to the end zone. Very exciting stuff. Neither team playing boring offense. But two clinical defensive moments there. We saw Japan picking it up outside their own end zone, playing that six-person stack. But there we see the layout from Japan, and that came from them stopping the initiation play. Australia not sure what they want to do.
What a shot that is. The sideline, I think, were not quite counting on how tight the defence was going to be from Shears, and then lofting that one over the top to who else but Angela Pigeon. 4 goals of the 7 for Australia. This is a game, folks. If you were not aware, this is a game. So the pull comes up from Australia. It's going to go to, I think, just beyond the brick mark. No, fielded on the run. Shimizu takes the first pass short there. Morioka. Back to Shimizu. Nice down the line throw there, utilising the break side space. Opening up the big bomb deep is Shimizu, and it is gobbled greedily away by the Australians. The 18 shirt, Hannah Nandan, made herself big and snatched it. Didn't even give a sniff of an opportunity to the Japanese targets. But that one just bounces out of the hands of Osmond. And Japan are not going to need another invitation. Just work it quickly, pop it into the end zone. The easiest assist I think Shimizu will throw all tournament. Hinago takes us to 7 apiece, and we got ourselves some Galaxy point in this quarterfinal, Liam.
You love to see it. You love to see it. Both teams is trading it out. Australia again, big physical presence in the end zone, picks it off, but just can't work it up the field. They're struggling at times, their D-line on offense. And this is a big moment to, for Japan in particular. They get the break and a half here if they can break at this moment. Put on, I would say, your best 7. Throw something different at the Australians.
I'm a little surprised we haven't seen either side use a timeout maybe to try and maybe rest some of the stars to go out there, put a strong line out to get the break, or maybe to make a couple of tactical adjustments. You get 2 timeouts to use a half, and this is the last point whatever happens, so wouldn't surprise me if we do see one at some stage here, especially if the disc gets turned over.
I like the defensive strategy of Japan in that last defensive point they had. They almost scored, had a shot for the end zone. It was how they sagged off the handler marks to stop that initiation play. There's been some brilliant pull plays from Australia. Japan have to stop them. See what they're doing, make them do something different. Okay, they might still score anyway, but make them mix it up.
And that is clearly what they were doing there, forcing Australia to go to a second option. But they spot the zone and bring Della back into the backfield to help with the handling work. Chong maybe running out of options a little bit. Violation is called. Infraction on the mark, I guess.
Yeah, and should be delighted to get maybe a reset of that stall count. The Australians
Coming on 5.
very brave in how they play against the zone, push a lot of people downfield. You see maybe a team like Singapore would have 5-handers. They push downfield, they threaten the deep space. There's a lot of gold shirts standing in their own downfield.
Lovely little high release there to find the soft spot to Della. Della again pulls the hammer out of the toolbox. Pigeon, the low catch towards the ground was maybe a little bit awkward, but the most important thing is that it stuck. The wind's not been as strong as it has been at points this week. And that one nearly blocked, but brilliant second effort grab by Chong. What can Australia do with the opportunity they were given? Tipped by Pigeon into the hands of Rickard Stang. Australia 8-7 up at half. It was harem, scarum and helter-skelter, Liam. But the important thing is they have the lead going into the break.
It doesn't matter who catches it. There was 2 Australian players there. Pigeon's like, no, you have it. Bit of Mac line to get half. That was a little more of a struggle than it has been in other points for the Australians, but fantastic play.
I mean, who saw this coming? I expected, that Australia might give a sterner test than some of the teams they had faced so far. But to be 8-7 up at half on serve is magnificent. What a replay as you see the layout grab there from Chong and then dicing it down the line off the hands of Pigeon to Rickard Stang. What a game we have here. 8-7 Australia on serve going into the break.
will arise and go soon to the Isle of Emerald Green, and watch my mighty heroes go to battle on the screen. Where the ocean kisses Ireland, Shannon's tears of joy flow. That lovely Lady Limerick invites us to the show. From mighty glens and rugged hills, bays and braes raise a sláinte. Ganairi an bóthar leat, agus céad míle fáilte.
An absolute barn burner here in Nottingham for the World Under-24 Ultimate Championships women's quarter-final action, and we are on upset alert here with Australia up 8-7 on serve going into half against Japan. What a game, Liam.
Yeah, I like how the Australians are currently seeing some bloodhound gang in the halftime circle. The Japanese players very much, talking coaches and tactics. The Australians just having a bit of a boogie. We've seen a lot of great defensive strategies here from Australia and Japan. We looked at a moment earlier where Japan setting up this kind of J stack, as I call it, the 6-person stack, nobody in the reset place. And if we can pause it there, you can see the Australians bracketing off there. 2 or 3 people, particularly standing in the open lane. And we highlight some players here. We have Della. We have 3 players in total of the Australians hanging out on that open side line, making things very difficult. And as we clear the screen there, and look how they pick people off as the play goes on. And it takes away the first 2, 3 options from Japan, getting high in the stall count, and eventually Della sneaks in and gets to that block. And that's just good awareness and team defense.
I think what was key for that as well is Pigeon did a good job on the force, not allowing the break to go, to force everything into those defenders downfield. 0 breaks. Australia got with more break chances than their opponents, 6-3. So if you're being a bit critical, you'd say that both sides need to clean things up after the turn. But Australia with 6 clean holds out of 8 against anyone, but especially a side the quality of Japan, that's magnificent.
So you look at these two sides, I think Australia are generating better defensive pressure, but I think the Japanese D-line looks more likely to convert when they get the disc. So Australia need to step it up with their D-line offense. They got to get one of these break shot opportunities in if they want to win the game. Well, I say that they could just serve it out, Australia. I think it's going to be a very, very tight matchup. Not many people expecting this, how strong Japan were in the group stages, but I think Australia were saving something in their back pocket, knowing that it's just, you just want to make quarterfinals. This is doing the can there. I'm not entirely sure which of this hop step is, but it's definitely providing energy and entertainment for everyone here.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying it, I must say. So this is the state of play in the women's division at the moment. We had the first round of quarterfinals already. United States and Germany going to play a pool play rematch in one semi-final. The winner of this game plays the winner of Canada and Colombia, which, by the way, you can go and watch live now with a little bit of second screen action with an Ulti-World subscription. Canada up 6-3 on Colombia, out on field 2. You can watch all the games that have been available on this week. Sign up at ultiworld.com/subscribe. But we do have another free game available on YouTube coming up after this, and it's Australia again in the open quarterfinals against the USA. And hopefully, if you're like me and you're buzzing off this game, you just want to see as much of this as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure the Australians will be staying up late watching this one.
I think
a few Castlemaine's or whatever beer is popular there at the moment.
Worth a few bleary eyes in the morning.
I've definitely done it myself. You might be lying in the bed, you're like, oh, I should go to bed, but there's another great game of Ultimate on, so I'll stay up till 2.
I mean, I've done that for games you've commentated on. That's how dedicated I am.
I'm just wondering, did we do the Australia mixed final together back in 2015?
We might have done. I think we also did USA-Australia quarterfinal at Under-24s in 2019. Hopefully the next game is also closer than that one.
Yeah, just love this competition so much.
Me too. There's a real buzz and intensity and atmosphere around it that, yeah, it makes for something a little bit special. So second half underway, on serve, Japan looking with the break backhand there to Morioka. How will this game twist and turn? The only way to find out is to stay tuned. Matsuzaki have scarcely called her name in the first half. I'm not really sure if she played. She's got a lot of taping on that left knee, and that is something to keep an eye on as the layout past two Japanese receivers, the 88 and the 89, Takada and Hashizume. Neither of them could get there. Della will look to power the D-line offense. Shears comes underneath. Pigeon makes the next cut, but just wants to go in the backfield back to Della. Della tries to furrow the inside channel. Great catch coming towards it from Panya Preston. Back to Della, who I think is very clear about where she wants the play to go. Nice underneath there, Rickard's Tang. Dishing it back off, Preston rips it. She's looking for Madoua. I'm not sure if this is going to keep the edge. It is! An Australia break! The first of the game coming out of half. It's 9-7. Superb throw.
Madoua running that one down. That was a trust throw. The lunchbox player, she was fantastic at the World Ultimate Club Championships. Gets the first break of the game. Let's go, Benji.
We are fully on upset alert, Liam. That was the overthrow. Two bids, neither came in there, and it was calm for the most part from Australia, but you were calling for this. Eventually, shoot your shot, and what a shot it was. Madoua just accelerated towards the end zone, and then going low. It's been so easy to kind of bobble that off her knees and out of the hand, but at the crucial moment, Silia stuck it to put Australia get the game's first break. I can barely get my words out.
Colossal play from Madoua. I remember commentating one of her games in Cincinnati. It was a real standout player for Lunchbox. She's been a little bit quiet in this game, but that's because she's been a D-line player. You know, often a D-line player, you only get one or two moments to step it up and get that breaks, but that could be the game-winning break, Benji. It's been tit for tat so far.
I mean, the way Australia's O-line has been playing, they were perfect on 6 of their 8 points. It might well be. I think, although the wind's not as strong as it has been at points this week, that is also the nominal upwinder, so something else to take into consideration there. The pool comes down with snow on it, such is the hide and the hang time. Fielded from the floor by Japan. The cut slashes from the near side of the field to the far. Tsunezume. Tsunezume has that wide swing available. Had to require the layout. Superbly done. This time Takada's able to get there. Matsuzaki is well defended. Superbly defended, in fact, by Kat Buxer. Pick downfield.
Could they get the second break here? That looked like a good shot, but going upwind this time, Japan. So this O is going to hang. An incredible defensive play. Now the huge opportunity to take a 3-point lead here.
Trying to roll that one past the defender, a little bit fluttery, but Preston, who powered for the last point, this time I think wanted to be a bit more circumspect with it, but with a high stall, just put it out and behind Madoua. Matsuzaki takes her time before again going for the deep shot. This time, can she nail it to Katagiri? She can, just past the bidding Madoua to make it work for 8-9.
Arrows one to the back of the end zone. What an incredible throw. That, you can see Madoua was patrolling the deep space at times there, but just can't get it. Arrows one to the back. Robin Hood will be proud of this one. Not much room for error there at all.
I mean, it is fine margins, but I think Matsuzaki's presence in the second half is going to be necessary. They will need her at the best to prevent the shock of all shocks here. As we mentioned, Japan was so dominant in the pool play stage, and now the rain's beginning to come down as well.
Let's see what influence that has on the game as we see kind of switching sides now, where Australia are going to have to go upwind on offense.
I think word has got round about the scoreline here, because it feels like the stands are rapidly filling, Liam.
Yeah, certainly any of the staff or volunteers that have a break offer around, the Australian fans, Japanese, all nations gathering around. I love that at these tournaments where, you know, whispers start spreading of a close game and people run from one sideline to the other to find out which is the most exciting game of the round. I think we've got one here, and offside is being called.
It's a shame for Japan because it's a good pool, but Australia won't mind. if Japan are just a little bit lax there about keeping themselves onside, Australia will gladly take the free field position.
We see Japan now sagging in the lane off their handlers, stopping that pull play, which has been effective for them so far.
Chong doesn't like that downfield centering option, so floats one up. A couple of defenders there. Tipped back into the hands of Rhea Carpenter. It feels like some of those breaks have fallen Australia's way. Now Chong to Pigeon. In the red zone, Della. There is the blade to the back, doesn't want it. Fakes at Chong, now going to go down the line with the break. Chong a few yards outside the end zone. Pigeon, the timing of the cut isn't there. Della into the backfield. Oh, crafty creativity there from Julie Chong. Lucy Della, we've seen distribute for scores. Now she's catching them. Japan go 2 points down once more. 8-10, the Aussies lead, and I think maybe just a little bit of something lost from Della there, but good spirits you can see. Just one thing I love as well, that you know, even though it's close, it's tight, the upset's on, the spirits remained strong throughout.
Della putting on the jet boosters there. She's taken over on lots of points. And you can see a big smile in her face, and she should have one. She's putting on quite the show for us here, Benji. Lucy Della.
Shout out as well for Julie Chong, who's now got 5 assists. I mean, that is quite a stat line. Especially when you consider she's also not turned it over. So it's not like, you know, she's getting the assists, but it's just through getting a sheer bulk of work. Yes, she's doing a lot of handling, but she's been sharp with it as well.
I think they played such a smart game, Australia, as well. Playing to their advantages and having someone like Della there orchestrating this offense, being a maestro at times. And, you know, they're not crossing her over now because they don't need to for a little while. They can maybe try and rest her and just punch in the offensive points.
Especially in the downwind direction where, you know, maybe the throwing prowess is not quite as important. Sun bursting through the clouds here in Nottingham, and at the moment it's shining in Australia. Faking this way and that. Preston getting active on the force. High stall. Short backhand to Takada. Does find that space down the line. The deep shot goes. Rolled over the head of the first receiver, but well tracked by Sunizumi. Can she find the little dish off, or will she have to go back into the backfield? Just going to play it around before they can see if they can finally punch it over the plane. Just an overcommittal, one too many. Asuka Morioka with the score.
Nice patience from Japan. They catch that hawk that was trailing to the break side, favouring the offensive receiver the whole time there. You can see a lot of patience. They couldn't punch it in straight away. But this is a classic Japanese hawk here. See, trailing towards the break side. Always favours the player on offense. And have to take some time here before eventually a little shuffle movement gets them in the end zone.
I'm a little surprised they weren't throwing that to Hashizume, given how good she's been in the deep space. But again, as you mentioned, maybe putting that extra break side edge on just provides that extra bit of security from getting it away from the defender.
Yeah, it's something we've seen all the Japanese teams do, is hawk from, you know, on the open side, arcing towards the break side. Makes it very difficult for maybe a tall receiver to compete in the air for it.
Mike Neal seems pretty pleased with how the Stingrays are doing. As well he should be. Each of the Australian teams at whatever age level has their own kind of team name, their identity. Under-24s, it's the Stingrays in the women's division, Blue Bottles in the mixed, and Goannas in the open. More differing zone here from Japan to try and outfox the Australians. And a collision there is going to cause a stoppage.
Yeah, it is a very tight zone here from the Japanese, and two players trying to shut each other down.
There's that overhead option available to Pigeon, should they choose to hit it, but it's more difficult in this direction than it would be going the other way. And Japan doing a very good job of forcing the Australians backwards. Finally it comes out, the hammer, judged well from Della, and as well on the reception. Chong shooting deep, all sorts of air underneath it, a tricky read, and brilliantly defended there. Was shooting for Shelby Thompson. but Satsumi makes a fool of the size mismatch to get the block.
I know travel was called there. You can see a lot of players echoing it as the disc was in the air. It looks like the turnover will stand, which I think is the correct resolution.
Yeah, it clearly did not affect, and I mean it would be Japan calling it, right? So surely you'd retract the call.
And here we see this 6-person vertical stack again, offset. We'll see if they surround the stack again, the Australians. Not so much this time.
And this time they do, the Japanese, what they couldn't the first time. They get that quick break off to open up the space. Cut up against a shuttle deep, Sogabe. And then the high release weighted down the line, or it baited the help defender in, and now they're trying to open it up with a deep shot, but you could see what effect the wind had on that, because it looked good, and then it sank like a lead weight. Australia wanting to keep things moving quickly before the pressure of the Japanese zone comes in. Chong, a little bit of an overshot. Japan in once more. First point where the only the second point, where the Australian O-line has turned it over multiple times. But both sides trading overthrows. Australia get it back. Chong just short to O'Connor in the backfield this time. Now a clean run through block from Mayuka Takada.
Sensational, oh my god, making up the space there. Did not think she was going to get there. Incredible pace and speed.
This game has kicked up through the gears, and the miscommunication. The layout didn't get there. O'Connor quickly to Della. Della ripping the forehand deep. The blade to Pigeon is bang on the money. It was dirty for the Aussies, but they got it done. 11-9.
Ice in the veins from Della. She wanted this point to end. She's like, all right, I'm taking this over, and slings one to the end zone. Absolutely catapults that. That was an inch perfect throw. Very turn heavy point, but I think it was just great defense from both sides at times.
Yeah, 3 turnovers apiece, the most in this game. There was the deep shot from Mamiya. It was an ambitious option, and you could just see the wind just really push that down. One overthrow from the Aussies there that was given right back. That, I think, was the best turnover of the point, if it makes sense. Just a clean run through block there from Takada, but a miscommunication on that dump, and Della pumps it into Pigeon.
Yeah, shot from the hip there. Got their whole body behind it. Great form with that flick hook.
The Aussie handlers have been clay pigeon shooting.
Yeah, we've seen it throughout the years. It's in the likes of Kat Phillips, Kat Smith, Holly Reeve. Each generation of another big gunslinger coming out of Australia.
Della is the latest in that lineage. It pops up, but Takada realised she had enough time, did not have to lay out for it. Matsuzaki. Now Tsunezume finds the space, wanted to step into the deep shot. Force a little bit sat off to give chance maybe to react. There's the break throw down the line, the continuation not throwing to, going with the blade across the pitch, looking for who else but the laying out figure of Hikari Hashizume. Her third goal, 10-11.
We're getting an exhibition of break side throws, Benji, opening up the whole field. And again, another classic Japanese style shot for goal. And you know, a lot of, I think, North American and European players might not be expecting this shot, but very much working in unison here, the Japanese players. And another goal. Incredible stuff from Hashizume.
Still just the one break in this game. That point straight out of half.
Yeah, Japan, you know, getting multiple breaks in every game before this. Unable to get one yet. They've had opportunities and had a few little miscues and things like that. I feel like they're going to get one before the end of the game, but might say the same thing about Australia. They've they've more in the oven.
And Japan don't just need the one break, they need two.
They have the sideline support now.
I think it will give them some enthusiasm that they did turn the Aussie O-line 3 times in the last point, the most inefficient point for the Australians on offense. There's a great pull, watched all the way into the hands by Della, quite cupcake-esque that. Chong, short to Carpenter. They're only keeping 3 players back, and the reason was so they could exploit that soft spot in behind, but it's a bit underthrown. Blaze to turf before O'Connor can get underneath it. Now on a rising stall count, putting it deep to no one. Stall out was also called, and I think it is accepted as well.
That was an absolute gift for Japan. I kind of like them picking it up quickly, but then no options there at all. Has to lash it to the end zone. Looks like it's an accepted foul. Accepted stall out.
I knew what you meant. I'm with you. I would maybe like to see a little bit more of a presence closer towards the disc for Australia, but it means, of course, that they get the numerical mismatches downfield, with 3 defenders marking 4 players. Della again does like showing the hammer. This time it goes back into the toolbox. I'm sure Japan are more than aware that that could come at any moment. That is the moment, but that one came out with way too much verticality.
Yeah, Japan happy to offer them the hammer, but it's a very difficult throw, and you know Australia have hit it most of the time, but that's the tactic here from Japan.
Matsuzaki playing both ways now. Will look to try and power the D-line to the break, putting up the high one deep. Della comes over the top to get the block. Again, that Vegemite sandwich, as you called it, surrounding Ikumi Kishida. That's what you want to do as a defense, just bracket the receiver so all they can do is go up and they get no room to work with.
Struggled twice now off the initiation plays. 2 break opportunities here, turned over first pass, a hopeful pass from Japan. Very unlike them.
But they are definitely having trouble with the new setup of this Japanese defense. Big one over the top. Pigeon watches it all the way into the hands. Now they've got 3-on-2 deep, but they don't want to push their luck potentially. Thompson goes back to Della. O'Connor. Space well exploited by Rickard's Tang. Della again finding Rickard's Tang. I think she wanted to jump that in. I'm not sure that she'd taken off.
Don't need a translator to find out what the Japanese players are suggesting. They're saying she had the disc before she jumped off. We are requesting a translator though. I think I can do the translation here.
Yeah, they're going to take it from here. Yeah.
I think just clarifying what the resolution is as well. Uni John, the game advisor, on the near side. Oh, they sent the translator on. It would have been Suzuno Uesada, but not needing her in the end. And the break comes through. And I love that. Don't leave anything up to chance there from Thompson. Go to her knee so she can use her torso to create the backboard for the 12-10 score.
Shelby Thompson with another goal. Fantastic work by Australia. Looks like they're calling a timeout here.
First of the game.
Yeah, and Japan have been, great defense, and they're kind of allowing them to throw those hammers. We see 2 first pass turnovers from Japan. I think that needs to go down to the fantastic defense of this Australia O-line.
And Matsuzaki is a supreme thrower, but that was not the shot. Della's hammers maybe struggled a little bit earlier in the point, but when they needed to, were on point. Australia taking a timeout, looking to press their advantage. 12-10, they lead Japan. Is this the story of the tournament so far? Women's quarterfinal. So far, unbeaten, untroubled Japan in the stickiest of situations, 12-10. They trail Australia. Benjamin Rees and Liam Grant with you here at the World Under-24 Ultimate Championships, brought to you in association with our partners, Discraft, provider of the Ultrastar, the official disc of the World Flying Disc Federation, and VC, making the best ultimate apparel since 1998, and now with recycled materials and gender-free fits as well.
Australia bringing the heat in this women's quarterfinal.
How good have they
If
been?
you put some bets in Australia, we would have got some good odds before the start of this game, but they're the ones in control right now.
Japan need 2 breaks. It is getting late here for many people, the favourites after pool play. Matsuzaki zips through the inside flick. Takada with some idiosyncratic fakes. Hinago looking back to Takada. Once again, she throws herself to the turf with another spectacular layout grab, and then the composure to pick herself up, throw the inside flick, try to backpedal her way into the end zone to Tsunezume, but Tsunezume's not in yet. So she goes back to Matsuzaki on the end zone line. Takada, continuation to Hashizumi for her fourth goal. 11-12. Now, can Japan find ways to get those breaks?
Textbook end zone offense there from Japan. Moving the disc quickly, 2 or 3 little swings, opens up the space. And of course, there's Hashizume there to finish things off. But great composure throughout that whole point from Japan. I think a couple of times Japanese players ended up on their backs, got up and just throws the inside flick. Not phased at all by this situation.
No, I think we mentioned before the game and during the game that they are here with one goal in mind, and it's all been about getting that gold medal on Saturday morning. But they have not been in not only in this situation, but anything close to this situation yet this tournament, because the closest anyone took them in pool play was Colombia, and Japan won 15-4.
Yeah, haven't been asked a lot of questions so far in this tournament, Japan. Let's see what they can do now. I'd like to see them cross over maybe 1 or 2 of their top O-line handlers. I think the D-line has been getting break opportunities, but have been really struggling to convert them.
To that end, the Australian O-line has turned it over 5 times in the last 2 points. They only turned it over 3 times total, the O-line, in the first half for Australia. Again, they've got that free up front and being proactive in passing players off downfield. And here's down line to Della. Chong plants, comes up line, gets that little soft spot underneath.
And they are playing a person defense here, Japan, but lots of switching. You can see a cacophony of sound coming from the sideline as they communicate that.
And it works to perfection with the underneath layout block coming from Kana Sogabe. Another red zone break chance for Japan. Finally, can they make it count? Looking for the inside flick, bang on the money. 12 apiece. We are back on serve. Japan still need another break, but that is their first of this contest. It's 12 all.
Kishida with the goal. Incredible Oishi from Japan. They get their first break of the game. A massive moment. You could smell it coming. They've been mounting this pressure on Australia, stopping their initiation plays, figuring them out, and a beautiful run through D. Incredible. Putting her body on the line. And gets up to catch the goal as well. Or should I say, caught by Hinago.
Yeah, what a time for Japan to get their first break. And I wonder if that timeout the Australians called has maybe backfired a little bit for them, because it was a clean hold for Japan coming out of it. And they generated another turn in the red zone. And this time they were able to make it count.
Game to 3, Benji. Game to 3.
I understand that Australia were trying to press their advantage there, but it was a gamble, and it hasn't quite paid off yet. As you mentioned, game to 3 now. You do practice these scenarios in training so frequently. Now can you execute it on the biggest of stages? The ball will hang and drift out of the far sideline.
You know, whoever wins this game, Benji, both sides have been fantastic. Brilliant spirit, fantastic energy. Such a whirlwind of throws they've put on. Such a display. I've really enjoyed the game, and you know, I'd love for both teams to win, but that's just not the way it goes.
That blade underneath to Pigeon was underthrown. She tried to cut back underneath, got a hand there, but it was always going to be a difficult catch. And Japan working quickly off the turn towards the end zone, just past Della into the end zone, and just like that, Japan have their first lead of the game. Ayuri Kawayanagi makes it 13-12. How quickly they flick the switch.
Getting the goal, incredible. The wheels is coming off this Australian bus that has been so strong all game long, and just an unforced error. The Japanese waste no time, clinical, punishing the Australians. That a tight window to throw through, but that's what they do so well, this Japanese side, and they're in the lead now.
Yeah, another timeout called here, I think by the Australians, because they need to try and find a way to get back on the board and then put the pressure back on this Japanese outfit that has kicked into another gear. Australia led the break chances 6-3 at the end of the first half, but since then it's now flipped in Japan's favour. Overall 10 break chances for Japan and 8 for Australia. Japan's O-line has kicked it up a notch, turning over just the twice in the second half, while Australia's offense has really struggled to figure out that Japanese zone look that is keeping tight on the handlers. So it's been so tight here, just 3 breaks all game. This was the first one for Australia coming out of half. Just an overthrow there past 2 bidding Japanese receivers. They were ambitious, finally called for stretching it on the turn like you called. Punched that one into Madouar. That gave Australia the 2-point advantage, and then the run through on that wide swing. Excellent block. This a second of the game for Sagabe. Finally they took advantage of the red zone turn, and then just an underthrow from Chong, who was magnificent in the first half, but the Japanese have clearly ramped things up a little bit defensively, and that is the score that has put them in front, Liam.
Pressure is for tires, Benji. Japan capitalizing on one of very few Australian mistakes, and they are in control now of this game. Australia calling the offside.
And another good pull position is wasted, but it will give Japan a chance to get a defense set. Australia going to operate out of a 3-4 horizontal look. I imagine they're going to see if they can find Della off a pull play here. But the defensive setup does a good job of preventing that. Bit of loft on that one from Carpenter. Pigeon has time to stop and set herself. Della jinking and jiving. Now clearing through, stall rising, just puts a bit of air underneath it. Stall out is called as Della plucked that from off the top of the head of the defender.
I could hear the stall counts from here, and I'm not sure if it was a full 10 seconds.
Okay.
Definitely very
So
close.
she thinks it's a stall out. You think you release it at 9. I didn't really hear the stall, so I don't have a perspective to give. So
I'm
what do you
pretty
think?
sure.
Okay. Okay.
I heard like 9 as Peter's story. He definitely did say 10, but it was like when it was in the air.
No, I think.
Okay, so do you think you can come to an agreement? No? Then let's try to contest. Okay, do you know which stall you comes back in? Yeah, it comes back in, and then it's maximum 8. Yeah.
One of the very few calls actually in this game, Liam.
Yeah, things getting a little more heated here. Adrenaline is high.
And on the high stall, choosing to try and play the percentages towards the back of the end zone. 2 Japanese defenders converge on it. Matsuzaki gets taken out in a little bit of friendly fire there. I think she's going to have to go off on an injury, maybe. No, she's dusting herself. I thought that was what's going to happen.
I think a violation was called. I think one or two players on the far side were not ready for that disc to come in, but they're saying it didn't affect the play and the turnover stands.
Having been 12-10 down, Japan now have the disc to take a 14-12 lead. First cut slashes down the line. They'll look to get the disc in a more central position, but Australia are marking it out well. Matsuzaki to Kawayanagi. Big fake of the deep. The mark sags off through the center, and they just about thread the needle through. Pick.
You see the way the Japanese set up this kind of 6-person stack. It means you're quite isolated when you're on the disc, but leaves a load of space to attack that break side, particularly continuations. That's something to try to do over and over again.
Inago. A little bit of milk there from Morioka. Knew she had the time and space. Trying to clamp up on the high stall. Able to find the release valve. The put across the end zone. They've had a little bit of trouble with them before. Did she keep it in bounds?
Look, not into me, Benji, but it's not my decision to make. I'm sure some contrasting opinions.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. What did
I think
you thought your foot was in? Okay, do you want mine? Okay. Would you like my perspective? You stepped on the line as you caught the disc.
Yeah,
Your foot was on the line as you
line.
caught the disc, and line is considered out. Okay, yeah. Translator? Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, your
pretty
foot on the
clearly out to
line.
me.
Caught the disc. Yeah. So that's okay. So her perspective, that's she stepped the line as she caught the disc. My perspective, also her foot was on the line as she caught the disc.
Yeah, she's clearly in the air by the time she gets the catch, and the foot is on the line, and if anything on the line and out of bounds rather than just on the line, although
Okay,
the line is
so
also
it's
considered out.
Yeah. So 20, yeah, I can just leave it down. 20 seconds offense, it's a turnover.
Turnover stands.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to the right resolution there. Kind of bizarrely, all the Japanese players on the far sideline, so none of her teammates there to maybe inform her that she was out of bounds. Very difficult for the player with the disc to actually know
Yeah, I think
where
you
their
always
foot is.
kind of instinctively think you're in, but the game advisor was right there, and the perspective was clear. That one tried to come through. The two number ones matching up against each other. Mayuri Ito up against Rhea Carpenter, who's calling a foul on the contact.
Get the translator right away.
Yeah, just coming in.
I felt I had it, and you came through me to get the disc, and I felt I had it.
I think
Okay. Yeah, so I felt that I had it before, and I had contact coming through as I was catching the disc, and I felt that if I didn't have it, then I at least had the contact that stopped me making a foul.
Okay, so you're calling it a strip, at least a foul.
Yeah.
Okay, and then.
She's saying 横から後ろからだと目に足何も分かってるから横から入って手を先に出して。She thought it would be dangerous to come from the back, so instead she went from the side and then touched the disc first.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm not sure if we will come to an agreement, so I'm gonna kick that foul.
Okay.
So
同意に足りそうないね。そしたら
Okay, foul call, contested. Okay. Okay, so
A few
this
more
goes
calls
back.
creeping into the game here as the intensity heats up.
Yeah, I think that pressure tightens. There's a bit more physicality in the marking, and I think there probably was a bit of contact on the shoulder. How much that affected is always difficult to tell unless you're actually out there. What about you, Liam?
Ito trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat there, but can't do it cleanly.
Della dishes to Carpenter, no doubt about that one. Della steals a march down the line. Carpenter trying to be aggressive downfield, but has to go back to Della in the centre of the end zone. O'Connor. Everything very handler-led for Australia. I think they might be putting away some of those more swashbuckling style throws we've seen earlier in this game.
We've seen this so much where Australia have a lot of people deep downfield, maybe only 1 or 2 Japanese players marking them, but very difficult to attempt that throw.
I mean, we've seen that they have the throws, but especially against the wind, it's a tough ask. And you see what they're doing downfield. They are trying to split that deep defender. There is a stoppage here. I think they want to maybe change that ultra start. It does look, you can see that it's a little bit bent out of shape.
I could see it was tackled from about 100 meters away. Not entirely sure when that happened. They were playing with that for a little while.
I think if anything, them throwing it away to the game advisor there just confirmed that. You could see how it was kind of flittering and fluttering in the wind.
I'm glad they didn't try one of their over-the-top hammers or deep shots with that last disc, but a new, fresh ultra start to get things going.
O'Connor to Chong, back to O'Connor. You feel like the Australians need this hold. There's still plenty of time left in the game, but of course, with cap at 15, there's not many points left. Pigeon. Going back to Della. I think she wanted the around. Coming through is Chong. Carpenter's going to find that soft spot over towards the far side. Now a little bit of 1-2 between each other. Not sure Australia would mind it if they could run the gauntlet all the way down the field between Chong and Della, but now they're coming out wide to O'Connor.
They're playing 3 against 4 here for the majority of it, Australia. I would like to see someone else come back into the handler space as well.
And playing that 3 against 4 is fine if you can make advantage of the numerical mismatches downfield, but they haven't really been able to, because I think they're worried about, maybe the difficulty of those shots through. Pigeon's in so much space when they want to hit her, and the closer they get to the end zone, the more those spaces cramp up. Now Carpenter. Pigeon comes in to draw the defender. Dished to O'Connor. This is a very mature possession from Australia. All the run through. Sensed the opportunity there, did Hanago, but didn't get it before Chong. Japan
through a terrifying speed there. You can see poised and ready to pounce at a moment's notice, the Japanese players.
And they are still, it seems, sticking with this zone defense. They trust it all the way to the end zone. Oh my word, the hammer was huge, and the defender Matsuzaki got position. Of all the overheads to throw, I've got to question why that one.
Yeah, they had a few open receivers in acres of space early in that point. That was a hotly contested put.
And Japan, I think, want to take an opportunity to make sure that they've got the perfect offense for this possession as they take a timeout on their end zone line.
What a game, Benji, what a game. The intensity of that last point was palpitating.
So this is how the point has gone so far. Pigeon, after a contested stall, puts a high one towards the back of the end zone. Friendly fire between 2 Japanese defenders. They were okay as they got the block. And then this long, wide one towards the sideline. You can see that point of contact is on the line. Contested foul there. Went back, and then here's the hammer to Della that has given Japan the disc as they take a timeout here, up 13-12 in this women's quarterfinal. What a contest we have here women's quarter-final action, Australia-Japan. It was on serve all the way through the first half. Australia broke to begin the second. We're 12-10 up, and now it's 3 on the pounce for Japan to take their first lead of the game, and they're looking for another break here off this timeout. And you can see there is a little bit of surrounding there from Australia, with Lucy Della just sitting on the break side, I think maybe to try and stop that first swing. But Japan bisect the defence and split it through anyway. Now they're opening it up. That is a sky-scraping deep shot. Going to be a massive humanity underneath in a maelstrom, and it bounces off the hands of Ueno, who had done so well to read it.
That could have went any which way, Benji.
It's a good opportunity to Australia to try and strike before the defence is set. It hangs up, and Pigeon flies once more to peck it away. I wonder if the Japanese coach is spitting feathers that they couldn't get the block. Della again with the hammer. This time Pigeon sticks it. It's 13 apiece.
And the Australian crowd goes wild. That hammer was on this time. Much more separation from the Japanese defenders, and doesn't hesitate to send it again. Beautiful from the Australians, tying this game up yet again.
You mentioned with the Japanese, those hanging deep shots is not the way to go, because it does invite that Australian pressure where they're often winning the height matchups, and I think as well it just gave it to the wind. It made it a difficult read. I mean, 4 players really from either side, but Ueno, having done the hard work, will be disappointed she didn't get there. It did, however, allow Australia the opportunity for the quick pickup after the turn.
And catapulted from obscurity. There's the hammer they were trying to hit earlier.
Della and Pigeon have had that combination generally on point for the majority of this game, as Pigeon collects her 6th goal of Australia's 13.
See if Australia not really crossing anyone over at this point. I'd say a lot of the O-line just tired after the last one.
Yeah, I think they might be potentially saving them as well, because they're not really going to have any more break opportunities. Matsuzaki collects the first pass, leading pass through there to Takada. Takada and Matsuzaki playing between one another in the backfield. Taking the swing to Hinago. A bit of air underneath it, but the run down, no problem for Asuka Morioka. It's Sunizumi, excuse me. Takada being very demonstrative with the disc on those fakes. Beckoning for some sort of option. Eventually the inside cut comes and they bounce it off that from Morioka to Hinago. 14-13 Japan.
Takada cool and collective there. Is getting higher and higher in the stall count. She kept trust in her teammates and hits that inside shot. And when they execute it at such zip and pace, opens up the whole field, and they just continue on down the break side. That a very quick, clean hold from Japan, and Australia would have wanted to at least slow them down a bit, give their O-line a bit of a rest after that mammoth point just a minute or two ago. But it is game point Japan. I really hope this one goes to universe, Benji. It's what both these teams deserve.
I mean, whatever the result, it has been just a spellbinding contest, Liam. It's one of 2 free games we've got today, but if you want more games like this, you can watch all the games this week with an Ulti-World subscription. You can buy an event pass for this week, or you can subscribe full-time, read full tournament coverage and coverage of Ultimate around the globe. ultiworld.com/subscribe is the place to go. So the pull from Japan, they'll look to break to win here and avoid a potential sudden death scenario. O'Connor first pass to Della. Leading pass there to Della. Chong. Goes to Preston. The stack set quite far downfield for Australia. I think it gives their handlers more space to work with. Just a little blade there from Chong. You see he's got the tape on that right leg. Around to Rickard's Tang. A cut develops on the break side. Pump fakes Della. Signals the activation. Jinks her way free. Now Preston. The step creates the separation. The handler mark sags off. It allows the swing to Chong as there's a pick downfield. God, you can feel the tension, Liam.
Yeah. Electrifying atmosphere here. This women's division quarter-final. Australia have their vertical stack very deep away from the handlers, have them very isolated.
Checked in. Della collects a swing with the first pass. Cutters maybe struggling a bit to create that separation. Everything now is going through the handlers, but can they stay patient? They're not going anywhere. Finally, Chong is able to get a bit of movement with that up line pass. The timing's not there to be aggressive down that line. This time Della is making that slashing en passant cut. The break to Chong. Oh, it was a little bit hot to handle. She tried to pour it in, but it bounced to the floor. Wow.
And taking their time. This is the game-winning point. They call another timeout. Of course, Benji. Of course.
They do not want to give Australia a sniff on Universe. They want to end the game here, and you can hardly blame them because the way this contest has gone, if it goes to Universe, who knows what can happen.
We've got the tension with a knife right now, and Japan calling a timeout just to drag this out a little bit longer. Nobody wants it to end.
Mate, it's so finely poised. You could cut this with a spoon. That's kind of, you could feel it's palpable out there. It's fizzing through the veins of these players. It was just a little bit offline and a little bit too much zip. But in games such as these, those are how fine the margins are.
Yeah, an unfortunate drop from Australia there. We're asking a lot of their handlers during that possession. We're basically working it up the field with just two players.
I think that was the problem for Australia, that they were forcing those handlers to make so many passes that Japan, playing the percentages a little bit perhaps, that look, you might be able to just keep the disc, but you're going to be so bogged down with it that we trust eventually we can just put that seed of worry in your mind and create that error.
Yeah, I thought that vertical stack was very far away from Australia, and a lot of the cuts were kind of coming from too far away. Well, it's Japan now. We'll see if they'll set up that six-person offset vertical stack. They're probably brave at this stage to maybe even poach off it, because if you get caught out, you could be in trouble.
People from around the complex coming in for the conclusion of this game. The balcony to our left, full of volunteers, trying to catch a glimpse of the action.
Almost a similar banana stack to what we saw Chinese Taipei doing, a kind of vertical stack with one person out in the lane. Nobody in the reset space.
Chong covers that first cut underneath as the wind begins to pick up a little bit here. Sagabe, another layout, secures it. How many times have we seen that this game from Takada? There's the deep option. I think understandably it's holstered by Sameya. Takada out wide to Mamiya. Then they might try and find that inside. They do. Oh, the wind just picked it up at speed. And Takada, who is usually so sure-handed.
The Australians bringing intensity, each player jumping around the mark, trying to stop those insides. So difficult to stop this Japanese team from throwing those inside passes.
The handler mark sagged off Chong there. And that's the option that Della took. Again, nothing really going on downfield. Japan are daring the Australian handlers to beat them. Nearly paid off there, but Preston got a hand underneath it. Pick is going on downfield. It feels like the Aussie cutters have maybe lost a little bit of confidence, Liam.
Yeah, definitely. They seem to be hesitating on their cuts. Maybe like to see them, three handlers back now, transition to horizontal stack, start really shallow, No, I think a lot of them are afraid to cut deep.
Della finds O'Connor, finally getting more of the team involved. Now Preston tied on this sideline. She's already been ambitious for one upwind score. Wanted Della, oh my word, how does she fit that in? Scarcely a window, but she threads the needle. Now Preston wants the upline, not going. Stall count rising, just putting it out into space. No one put a name on it except Kana Sogabe. It seems cliche, but it feels like she just wanted it more. Australian teammates may be worried about getting in each other's way. Not a problem for Sogabe. And she has it now. Takada. Underneath. Into the chest. Karen Samea. Sogabe again, having got the block. A flow that will throw to a flow that. Oh my God, I can't even speak as Japan punch it in for the win. Mai Mamiya with a decisive score, 15-13. Australia were magnificent, but Japan, in the end, get the job done. What a contest, Liam.
Incredible performance from both sides. The Japanese team floods the field in jubilation. Heartbreak for Australia. You could see what it means to them. They were out on their feet there in that last point. An easy goal in the end for Japan, but you got to feel for the Australians. They put up such a fight here, Benji.
They were phenomenal. It takes two to tango, and they were such an adept dance partner. And I like the breakside option there, especially with the stall rising, because your players are presumably going to be in a better position. But I mean, it was so committed from Kana Sogabe, and the final score almost felt a bit underwhelming given the nature of the contest. But I'll tell you what, Japan, what a test this was, and credit to them for coming through it.
What a battle, setting the tone for the quarterfinals all day today. Blood, sweat and tears for both sides, but Japan, who booked their ticket to the semi-final. What a game. It was brilliant, Benji. It was brilliant. Such great deep shots at the start. A lot of fun ultimate, but then the intensity as it went on.
Yeah, one of the stars for an Australian side that I think put up a sterner fight than many had anticipated here was Julie Chong, who had 5 assists on the game and fit it into some frankly ludicrous windows. Australia maybe got some of the fair share of the fortune in the first half. I loved that little tossed backhand there. But in the second half, the Japanese pressure had ratcheted up. They forced Chong off her game a little bit, and that I think was a key reason why Japan were able to get the job done. Brilliant before half, and then afterwards, when those windows closed, they just forced her into more mistakes.
Yeah, they were playing with a little more joy and a skip in their step at the start of Australia, but as the second half went on, a little more turnovers started to creep in. They had 8 break chances, Australia, all able to capitalise on 1.
Yeah, 6 of those were in the first half as well. Japan's O-line only turned it over twice in the second, and one of those on the first point of the second half was the Australian break. You could see how much pressure Japan was generating in the second half. The same number of holds, the same number of clean holds, just those couple of extra turnovers relating to those couple of extra breaks, the difference in this contest. And we said early on how important it would be for Australia to take advantage of those break opportunities while they could, and they could only make 1 stick. Here's what it means going forward. It means that 3 of the quarter-finalists of this division are, well, I take that back, all of the semi-finals for this division are set. United States taking on Germany in a pool play rematch, and Canada, after a 15-5 win over Colombia, will face Japan in the semi-final. What a game that promises to be. Australians must be heartbroken, but I think they shouldn't lose sight of what they achieved here. this Japan outfit is so strong, and I think many people had maybe written Australia off coming into this contest, and they showed why they are a more than deserving semi-finalist, or quarter-finalist even, but had they made the semi, I don't think you can necessarily say that they didn't deserve it. I think we are going to try and speak through translation here to Hikari Hashizumi. Thank you for joining us. What does it mean to be able to play in a game like that? Yeah, sorry, I'll give it another go. What is it like to play in a game like that?
Down 最初はダウンペースですごいしんどかったけど、めっちゃ楽しい展開でやっていてずっとワクワクしてました。
So for the first half, we had hard times. We were down. Our scores were lower than the other team, but we had fun times, and it was a really exciting game. So that maybe led to the victory.
Hikari scored 4 goals in that game. Had to compete against some very tall Australians in the deep space. What was that like? Was it tough to, try and score goals in the end zone against such tall counterparts?
すごい大きい相手で、大丈夫かなって不安にはなったけど、もうディスクしか見てなかったからあんまり覚えてないです。
So they were really tall, and they were a bit scared. But then she was looking only to the disc. So, as a result, maybe she didn't really notice the tall girls.
Just one more question for you.
もう一点。
Obviously, you were 1 point down at half time. What was the message from your coaches?
Let's go away from me!
このままでも全然大丈夫で、今からが上げ時っていうのをずっと言われてたので、それを信じて頑張りました。
So even we were down pace, it's a start. The coaches said that it's a start from now, and we can keep on going. So yes.
Lovely. Thank you so much for talking to us.
ありがとうございました。
That's the very limited Japanese I know, and thanks to Hikari Hashizume for coming to interview as well, and thanks as well for the translation. Thank you.
Ohayou gozaimasu.
Look at you flashing the Japanese knowledge. What a game that was, Liam. I will remember this for a long, long time. Big energy and big plays from both sides, and Australia showed, I think, right from that very first point that they were here to play.
Yeah, they started off with some heavenly hooks in that opening half, and a few buttery biscuits sprinkled around as well. And the first half was a very fun, kind of high energy game, but as the game went on, it kind of turned into a real nail biter, as we see Hashizume then so composed. As she said, she didn't even notice the Australian defenders around her, and she definitely played like that.
Yeah, some creative options from the Australians who, they had the clear plan to try and attack the deep space, and it worked. This was the break at the end of at the start of the second half, that put Australia in the driving seat, but really smart adjustments made from Japan to swing this one back in their favour.
Yeah, just stepped it up a couple of notches in the business end of this game. It was those big cross-field shots that got them the goals when they needed. Australia fought hard and put on such a game for us today, Benji.
They did indeed. A game of the tournament contender, and the quarterfinal action continues. Open quarterfinal action next. Another free game for you as well. Australia up against USA in the open division from all of us here at Ultiworld and the WFDF, and of course Liam Grant alongside me. Benjamin Rees, final score in this thriller, Japan 15, Australia 13.